Welcome back to Blindside. It's brought to you by C-Track, the power to predict. If you haven't clicked and subscribed yet, we don't know whether you're part of our community, and we love you to be part of our community. It'll be an absolute honor. We stand for all the right things: integrity, respect for other schools, respect for referees, respect for players, and most importantly, respect for this community, people that really want to follow us. So it's absolutely free. Click and subscribe. And if you like this episode, please give us a thumbs up. It just grows this community to something amazing, and we can't wait to see you as part of it. Johnny, we visited SACS. Again, a very historic school in the Western Cape. Some amazing players that has come through their system. Western Province players, South African players, and just a backdrop or a scenery that I think is second to none in this country, with amazing people involved.
Yeah, look, the oldest school in South Africa, first and foremost. Now, can you imagine playing a rugby game at the foot of Table Mountain? You know, I used to play fullback. I would have dropped each and every up and under, because every time you look up, you just look into this majestic mountain. So, unbelievable setting. Great school with great traditions, and we'll delve into that a bit more.
Gert Small had us training there a couple of times at Western Province when I was with the Stormers, and I tell you, it never, I mean, we were there quite a bit, but every time you get there, it's just, you stand in awe of the beauty and the demographic of that school. So, Johnny, we had an amazing interview with Josh and Nick. Nick has been there, you know, he's an old boy, he's part and parcel of that school. A different approach maybe than some of the other schools, but just as profound, just as magic, just as amazing. School comes first, which I think is a wonderful thing to see. The values that they see in being a SACS old boy or a member of that sort of, call it, elite community. They've got a lot of pride in that. And then Josh, who obviously joined them, a rich background as a player, and also, you know, made his mark fairly quickly in the coaching community. So, yeah, two amazing guys part of this.
Yeah, and I must tell you, if you're the oldest school in the country, obviously you're the front runner as far as experience is concerned. Mistakes made, lessons learned, you know, they're doing something right. You know, part and parcel of just being the oldest school in the country, you can see that the fundamentals in that school is steadfast. You can use your unified language when you speak to the two coaches, and yeah, just a phenomenal school once again.
Let's go and have a look at Nick and Josh's interview, and this segment is brought to you by Nashua. We are here at SACS with Josh, Strauss and Nick. We are so glad that we can actually spend some time with you. I mean, you've got, probably we got here and said, I remember we used to practice quite a bit up here when there was something on at Newlands, but this backdrop is just absolutely phenomenal. It's a blessed place to be coaching rugby. So thanks guys for your time. We just want to have a bit of a conversation about, you know, SACS rugby in general, how you've experienced the season, and then what's coming up. So, Josh, you've been a part of this setup for a while. Nick, yourself as well. Tell us what makes SACS special in terms of rugby.
I think Nick's maybe best. He's been here for 17 years to answer the start of that one.
Yeah, I'll start. I'm an old boy, so I've actually been around even longer than I have been a teacher and a coach. So, yeah, I mean, SACS is the oldest school in the country, firstly. I think that's important to note that. It's got a rich heritage and history that's attached not only to the rugby, but to everything, really, to all the sport, to the academics. We pride ourselves as a well-rounded, balanced school. So we're not a rugby school per se. We like to say that we push ourselves as balance. Ultimately, we want to do as well as we can from a rugby point of view, obviously. But we've got this beautiful campus, as you mentioned. We've got a great parent body. We've got an old boys network that's the envy of many schools over that length of time, obviously. And yeah, we're ambitious on a lot of fronts, but most importantly, I think we want to turn out good quality gentlemen that'll go out into society, and one or two might make it as rugby players, but hopefully they will make it as decent human beings one day, and come back and make a difference.
Yeah, I think I'll just add on to that. I think that's also what caught my eye about SACS when I first came, is I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously played a few games against SACS at school, but again, never really competitive games, so I didn't know what to expect. Came here, I was very impressed with the manners the boys showed, the way that they greeted me when I walked on campus. They all got up and had a chat to me. So I was really impressed by that. And then also what I like is what Nick mentioned, that balanced approach. It's more of an holistic approach. We look at the whole picture. It's not really a rugby academy. You're so young, you got to be good at more things than just rugby. You need your academic side right. You need to do other sports to grow your skill set. So I like the ethos and the approach to it, and that's what caught my eye, and I think that's what makes it special here, is that the boys are still, we're trying to keep it boyish, and that they enjoy it.
Yes.
And that it's not pro rugby from 14 years onwards, which slowly but surely it's going to become. We can't stay away from that. If you look at the American sports, it's all gone that way. From school, it's become a professional thing, which I don't know if that's right or wrong. It's not my place to say, but for me, I'd like the boys to enjoy it as long as they can.
Yeah, look, I like a lot what you say, both of you. First and foremost, this is an educational institution. And I think sometimes we tend to forget that we're here to develop holistic children, first and foremost. Talent's a wonderful thing, and let it be. If you look at the stats, 1.83%, I think, of all Cravenweek players really make it onto the big stage. So rugby has got a window period, and after rugby, life doesn't end. You've still got 30, 40 odd years left. And when I listen to you, Josh, being both sides of the fence as a player and now as in a coaching opportunity, obviously you've seen it all on the field, and when you talk about the ethos and the boys greeting you when you get there, so SACS is doing something right from a character perspective. Am I right, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The messaging, you go to assembly in the morning and Mr. Grant's straight on to the boys about manners, and the first boy he saw when he came across the field had his hands in his pockets, and that's not how we do things at SACS, and we wear our hair in a certain way, and we greet strangers on the campus. We do all those. We had a headmaster who used to say, manners maketh a man. And I think that's carried throughout. So to get the balance between the professionalism, which we all also after, we want to run professional rugby programs at best we can, while keeping in with the ethos of the school, and we believe in those things. We think they're still important, and the modern world where there's so much negative influence through social media and whatever else for the kids, to have your parents hopefully as well, and then the school driving those old school values, I think is very, very important.
I think it also makes our job a little bit easier. Just on what you mentioned, what Nick said there, is sometimes you have to use sport to almost grow the manners, in the culture at a school, whereas it's a nice place to be, where you come in and that culture and manners, it's already strong. And then you can just add that into the sport, and the boys are already coming there with a certain mindset and a way of carrying themselves, rather than trying to force that through the sport. Sport's great for building those things, but it's also nice as a coach already having that base when you come in, and then just building upon it. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, I want to get back to what you said, Nick, with regards to social media. It's poison. That's my perception, and they always say your perception is your truth, my perception. And I want to know from you, dealing with parents, and let me use an example. The Bulls played the past weekend in Ireland. They lost. Poor performance, let's be honest, on the day. The reality is, a guy like Johan Ackerman is new in his position as coach of the Bulls. He did not have the time to work with the Springboks. That was out the system. They joined in Ireland. They've got this game, and all of a sudden, social media explodes. Not only with I don't care if you have an opinion about the game and about Kane and Moody and about this, but it's becoming a platform where people are getting extremely arrogant and personal, where they say this guy should not be there, that player should not be there, this is not the coach, that's not the coach. It makes, I think, your job's extremely difficult, because whether we see it in bigger unions or whether we see it at schools, how do you handle, call it negative criticism from a parent? And it happens everywhere. It's not, I'm not pointing fingers to a SACS here, it's happening in every school. How do you handle it, especially from your side, Josh, being on both sides of the fence? You know, there's a fine balance on how to work with negative criticism.
Yeah. I think it depends on what the critique is. And, you know, sometimes in my role, it's just about almost chatting the parents down. You know, if they come at you with something that they maybe perceive as a huge negative, and you can maybe, you know, connect that to something, an experience in your life, and give them an experience that this happened, it's not the end of the world, you know. Like if their son maybe doesn't make a Grand Como side, or he doesn't get asked to come to that training squad, you know, now it's the end of the world. And then, like you mentioned the stat earlier, the 1.84% that actually makes it from Crane Week, then you start talking about those things. You know, those boys who have been selected, they've got a very small chance of making it. And probably your son has a bigger chance, because more kids who don't make those teams actually come through later and make it. So it's just about using your experience to try and make them see maybe the reality in the situation. But then there's also some that is really negative, but I must say we don't really get that to our faces. There's more stuff you hear that is going on behind your backs, you know, this
100%.
parent saying that parent, the coach should be sacked. It's never to your face, really. And I think that, for me, that gets back to your point about social media as well. As people are very confident to say certain things when there aren't any repercussions to your actions. Yeah. And that's what makes social media for me so dangerous.
Sorry, Nick, being the oldest school in the country, obviously you've had a lot of lessons learned and mistakes made. You've been here a long time. So how do you, how does SACS get it right to create that community of integrity, a community of we stand together, we're not here to finger point, we're here to build and not to break?
I think the most important thing is communication, actually. You know, when you get your squad in the beginning of the season, you include the parents in that meeting as well. And when you sort of lay out your plans for the pre-season, the season itself, you go through the fixtures, but you also, in a nice way, lay out what the role of the parent is in this system. You know, you're the supporter from the outside, you're also the protector of the values, you back us on that, and we're united front on those things. But your job is not to select the team or to come up with a game plan or anything around that, you know. And I think it's important that you have to say those things, and everyone's in that meeting, and you know, parents will be parents. They love their children, and they will of course be upset if things don't go their way. That's normal, and we accept that as well. But I think if it's laid out on the table, there's a lot less scope for any bad sort of bad behavior, let's call it, that can come from that. We are quite lucky at SACS. We don't have a hell of a lot of interference. I mean, in the last 2 years that I've been the head coach of the first 15, I can't remember one negative impact of a parent. Yes, there's stuff behind the scenes, I'm sure, of people around the braai who will question, you know, selection is the most subjective thing in the world. You know, are we picking Pollard or Mani Libok? You know, are we picking Sasha? It depends on your bias, and you're always going to disagree on those things. So we accept that, and we know that there's always going to be criticism. But I think when it starts becoming very negative, and you're starting to influence the boys, and they stop believing in the coach, then it becomes totally destructive, and it'll stuff up your whole rugby program, actually, not just the team that you're in. So. But I do think it's important to include the parents, because they are a massive part of the boys' lives. So you can't alienate them and expect to have the support of the kids, because that's not going to work either. So it's a balance, I think, in that regard.
I can't agree more. I mean, the bottom line is communication is always going to be key in those scenarios. It's funny though, it's normally the parent that doesn't show up for that meeting that has got the most to say.
True.
But I mean, be it as it may, like you said, I mean, it's every parent thinks his kid is the next best thing, and it should be like that. And it's great that you guys actually get that platform, put that platform out there for them to, to be part of that first discussion. And I like that. Be part of the first discussion, hear what we said. I mean, that's why we're doing this program. Yeah. We want to inform everybody as far as we possibly can on every single school's way of doing things. Yeah. And if that's known, you educate it. If you educate it, you make more sort of like
decisions, yeah.
You make better decisions on how you treat coaches. Just on your off season, obviously you're going straight into that now, and I want to touch on something you said about you obviously want to go to that pro approach when it comes to getting the guys ready. So you're into your off season now. You've got your seniors set up. We'll talk about the juniors now, but in your senior setup, do you select a group of players to come and train, or is it a free-for-all pretty much?
No, it's been a group. It's always difficult because especially at schoolboy, guys grow at different stages in their young lives, and some kid who might be an under 16C player this year might have developed a little bit by next year. So we select a group, but then we also make it open to guys who really feel that they could learn something from it and can contribute, but they have to come and chat, like last year with Reece Schroeder, those guys with you, that have to come and make a commitment to it. I'm not just going to come and waste the coach's time or bring down the level in the session. I want to commit to this, I want to put my heart into this, then they're welcome to come. So you said we'll chat about the juniors, but it's different, the ages. So obviously under 14 we open it up to everyone because we don't know what's coming, and then have a look at it. Under 15 it's also a little bit open, but then sort of from under 16 onwards we select a squad. If there's an outlier who thinks from last year I've really developed and I could have a go, he can come and have a conversation, but there is almost like a set squad. It's always larger as well, and Nick can probably touch on this a bit better, but with all the summer sports commitments, us being a very traditional school in the sense that it's compulsory for the boys to do a summer and a winter sport, so they're always going to have clashes with their scheduling in the summer. So we also, the larger the squad, in terms of the numbers you actually get to a session will be smaller.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to keep it bigger for now.
And then from a coaching setup, I mean, do you guys you spoke earlier about keeping that, call it, teacher component into every team or whatever. But what is your ratio in terms of teachers being coaches versus guys from the outside?
I want to answer that, Josh. So, I mean, historically, right from whenever the school started, as far as I'm aware, there's been a teacher coach who's the head coach of every team. It becomes more difficult over time, as you can imagine. I think historically teachers were coaches and coaches were teachers. It was a normal thing that went hand in hand. I think nowadays, when you come out of a teaching college, you're a professional teacher. It doesn't mean you can coach rugby and cricket, for example. So I think it's becoming harder to find quality teachers who are also rugby coaches and cricket coaches and water polo coaches. They don't exist, or they are very sought after, and they've been picked up by all your opposition schools. So we are trying our best to keep that in place, but we do realize that if there is a teacher coach who's the manager, or he might not be the best coach, so they then get complemented with UCT Varsity Cup players who then will largely run the coaching sessions, and they will be there as the teacher coach who are responsible for the behavior and the ethics and the values and making sure the timekeeping is done well and the boys are dressed nicely, and looking after all those things that a university student might not find that important, but they're sort of at the cutting edge and being coached by Josh and Flecky and so on, and they've got great drills and they've got a lot of gees and enthusiasm. So we're trying to keep that in place as best we can. We don't think it's a good idea to have external coaches just running the show and being the heads of different teams who are completely separate from the school. Because we've known from experience from other schools, we've seen that can go quite pear-shaped. Mainly around the sort of, I don't know, win at all cost, unethical, behavioural side of things, which can then take a bit of a dip. So that, I mean, that's what the governing body wants. That's what the headmaster wants. That's actually what we want as well. At the same time, we want to be as professional as possible and make sure that every team is well coached and it's got the right people involved, because every boy matters. We always say to our boys, I chat to the under 14D lock, on a Friday, and I say, boy, we're playing Bishops, your game counts for 1 win for SACS.
Yeah.
The first team counts for 1 win. You know that. And then they sort of puff their chests out, and if it's important when you play a derby, you want to win more than the opposition wins.
Correct.
So obviously the first team game is the cherry on the top at the end, but we, as a coaching group, we are always looking as the results come in on the WhatsApp group. You want to see, played Rondebosch 18, won 10, lost 8 or whatever, and we have beers in the pavilion and we all celebrate a great derby,
Yeah.
And if you just focused on your A sides and you just focused on your first team, those sides are largely left to their own devices and the external coaches are there, and suddenly you lose something. And we're trying to desperately hang on to that at all costs.
But that's coming back to the squad. That's why I like the way you do things. I think you've got quite a big squad this year, giving everybody an opportunity. Because sometimes in life, any human being needs is just to be elevated, and that's just to get that opportunity. I mean, let's take Ethan Hooker. He went to the Sharks Academy. He didn't have a contract. He's the winger of the Springboks today. So I like that, because and especially when it comes from your junior phases where rightfully you see it, you've got a lock in the B or the C side, you pumped in up in grade 10, he gets the opportunity to become, whether he thinks and believes it, you will allow him, and maybe that's all he needs. Maybe that's all he needs to elevate his game. So I like the methodology a lot.
Yeah, I think just keep everyone invested. I think our big thing here is under 14 to try and make it as fun and, make them so invested in it that whatever adversity comes later, they like it enough. I think if at under 14 you lose some of your players, that's a very hard ask to get them back into it. So we try and build it from the bottom up, and then obviously get those guys excited, invested in the game, and then that I think that builds your depth as well.
Participation is actually one of the best signs of the strength of your rugby program and whether it's actually flourishing. If you're struggling to put out sides, your A sides might be strong, but if you're struggling to get boys to actually put on their boots and come out and train and play, there's something not right in your program. And we've got good participation numbers, we always have had, and we want to continue with that. And as Josh says, you've got to make every boy feel like they're part of something. And maybe there's going to be that late developer that does then come through.
Just never know.
And he got an opportunity, and some first team coach showed a bit of interest in him, even though he was a lighty and he's got aspirations, and then he comes in, maybe plays Craven Week or whatever else. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Oh, so let's share some blindside secrets. I mean, it's off season. What can we expect next year? How does the squad look?
The matrics for next year, I think there's been a lot of growth there as a group. Under 14, 15, 16, they weren't the most successful group. I think a lot of the schools this matric year was that post-COVID grade 8 intake. I think they lost a big part of their development, missing under 12 and under 13 rugby. I think that's a huge part of a young kid's life. But they've really shown, if you look at their results from under 14 to under 16, even though the win column hasn't grown hugely, a lot of the statistics got a lot stronger. The points for against got a lot stronger, the way they played. So I think there's a silent optimism about the matric group for next year, but we've got a very good grade 11 group coming through to complement them. So I'm sort of, excited about, it's going to be tough. We're going to have a youngish side with, the matric group. Obviously, the grade 11s outperform the matric group in terms of the younger age group stuff, but you never know. Like we said about the developers, some oaks who weren't the best under 16, they might blow the lights out next year. So there's an optimism about it. Just going to have to see how they gel. We've not seen this group together yet.
Yeah, so I've just coached them as grade 11s. The guys are going to be in matric, the senior guys. And you almost get the sense that they carry with them an underdog mentality always because of their results going through the age groups. So you never get that second year syndrome with this group where you've achieved it in grade 11, you're the big man and you actually end up being worse in your matric year. I mean, that's a common theme at schoolboy rugby for some reason. Your second year is not quite as good as it was. You're not quite as hungry. You've got other focuses like matric dances and matric exams and all that type of stuff. I've just got a feeling that those matrics will surprise a lot of people in our community. They've grown physically. There's some fairly meaty forwards, well over 100 kilos in a number of positions, which is unusual for SACS. And there is a lot of talent, we know, coming from under 16, a number of Grand Coma players, the most we've ever had. I think there were 6 in the starting Grand Coma province side and a couple in the B side. So there's a lot of talent coming there as well, but I wouldn't discount the matrics. They're going to be as hungry as the grade 11s, which is unusual because they also they want to prove themselves. They also want to play first team in their last year. And I think that blend, that balance might actually work well for us. And the nice thing is we will be under the radar. We will be underdogs because normally, when people see a young side, they think, oh, well, they're building for the following year. But we're hopeful that with some good preparation and some good team cohesion, we can surprise a few teams next year.
Guys, well, we want to congratulate you first off. I mean, we spend a lot of time with schools, obviously, since we've started, and I always say to Johnny, I think we learn more than we actually, you think you know more or less what schools are doing until you get to places like this and meet guys like you and all the other schools that we've went to. It's a pleasing thing to see how much effort and love for the actual game and the participants in that game is still there, even though it's becoming very professional from a coaching, perspective. It's amazing to see that the guys are still wholeheartedly in that development of a young man, more so than just win or lose on that. And it's amazing to see you guys getting excited about a season, not really haven't had probably the best or greatest season ever. It's always great to see that because it shows a belief in the boys. And again, we always encourage parents, just be a good parent, support your child, and let the guys who's actually, walking around with a whistle, let them, take charge and, take the responsibility for whatever their choices are. But just get behind them and give them their full support. And I really wish that for you guys for next year. I think there's some nice people involved in this, and we'd love to see you guys successful next year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Thijs. I mean, let's forget the backdrop for a moment. But there's something that when you drive through those gates, there's something. You cannot feel it, you cannot touch it, but there's something. And now I understand why. These two gentlemen are extremely passionate. They love what they do. Josh was a great rugby player, now as a servant of the game. You've been here for many years. I'm extremely excited to see what's going to happen to SACS. I like the underdogs. I normally back the underdogs as well. Well done. Respect for both of you. Keep up the good work. You're not only shaping rugby players, you're changing lives, and we will always honour that.
Thank you.
We'll come back. We'll do a derby. We'll come and do a proper build-up to one of the games, and we'll let you choose the game, and we'll take it from there. But thank you so much,
Thanks
guys.
for having us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Maybe you hate broccoli or love scary movies. Maybe you're indecisive, adventurous, or always kind. Maybe you snore, have a secret creative talent, or no sense of direction. We don't pretend to know you, but we know certain things get you going. And at MediHelp Medical Scheme, we know about healthcare, as we've been doing it for 120 years. Visit medihelp.co.za for all the information about our plans for everybody.
So again, Johnny, Nick, such an amazing gentleman. I played against him. Actually, he reminded me. When I was Western Province, we had a season that we had to go and play club rugby as part of, call it, uplifting club rugby or being part of that community, which we thoroughly enjoyed. I chose Villagers, and we played against each other a couple of games. Villagers actually won the cup that season, which obviously Tux claimed immediately because he was a part of that. But so yeah, I've known Nick, such a gentleman, and he personifies a SACS old boy. The way he portrays himself, the love that he's got for the school, but then also that responsibility that he feels in creating, proper young men for not only for the Western Cape but for the country.
Yeah, and what stands out for me is there's no real hierarchy. So it's not I'm the boss and you submit under me. They lead by example first and foremost.
Yes.
It's not a case of my title counts more than who I am. And you can see the unified approach between him and Josh. They've got a common goal. They know exactly where they're going. They stand in unity. And we've seen it time and time again. When your management team stands in unity, that is the key essential of first and foremost, a successful school, a successful rugby program, and then next to that is a successful first team.
Absolutely, and Josh, again, he's had amazing opportunities to go and coach. I know that Boland was, after him for a while in terms of the junior structures, just before, this whole shift came at Boland. But he had an opportunity to go to the Bulls and got part of that whole structure. If a guy like Jake White phones you to come and, fulfill some role, regardless of what anybody says, I think Jake White's probably got one of the best, if not the best, rugby coaching CV in this country. And I think, if a guy like that phones you, he's seen something in your coaching ability, but more than that, he's seen something in the human being that can actually, bring something back to the game of rugby, having been such a good player as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, each and every individual in this world is born with a certain set of gifts and a certain set of temperaments. I mean, some people are followers, some people serve, and some people are born leaders. Josh was born with exceptional leadership skills. You can hear it in the way he talks, you can see it in the way that he portrays himself, and therefore there is a massive demand for an individual like Josh. SACS can be extremely grateful and happy that he's chosen to cement his future there. I just hope, honestly, that the system keeps him there for a couple of years, because, first and foremost, to really build sustainability and consistency is not a one-season thing. It takes time. And obviously, Josh there being quite new, it's going to take time, but if they stick with him, the results will speak for itself.
I mean, he's fully committed. I mean, he moved from the Boland, to actually moved his whole family to be closer to the school and to be more invested. And so, I think it's going to be, like you say, Johnny, I think there's some incredible characters, part of that rugby setup. And, regardless of where they were or where they are on call it rugby rankings, I think there's something special happening there. I think they didn't want to mention too much, which I think was quite unique. They are doing something which they obviously hope will show on the results side of things, and actually, just the way that they portray themselves on the field.
Yeah, and I think what stands out for me again, both of them spoke about the headmaster. I mean, let's be honest. God will never give a vision to multiple people. It gives a vision to one person. And vision in the Bible refers to, it's a visual manifestation of the plan that God's got for our lives. And I don't want to preach on this episode, but people without vision perish. Perish in the old Hebrew means to throw off discipline. So if you don't have a clear understanding and the vision of where you're going in your life, you're not going to have discipline. And it starts with the head of the school.
Absolutely.
And when you listen to these two guys, it's clear that there's a vision in that school. And it's clear that the powers to be chose that headmaster for that school for a specific reason. And when it starts right from the head, it will infiltrate and spread through to the tail. And there's something that school is getting right.
Absolutely. Johnny, we also had the privilege to speak to some of the players, grade 11s, that are going to be part of this senior group for next year. And this segment is brought to you by MediHealth. Jack, Stefan, such a pleasure to have you guys with me here at your absolutely amazing school. We've been stunned since we drove through those gates. Tell me, how special is it to be part of this amazing school?
Yeah, it's a real privilege and honor to be such an old institution, especially playing rugby with knowing that all this history and all the past derbies that have been played here. It's quite a privilege and honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a big thing to hold the jersey. It's like when you step on that first team field, you're representing not just your school, your family as well, and your friends that like want to represent the school as well.
So you guys have obviously started with your off season or pre-season. You're probably starting now, or you have started. How hard is that? So we normally hear all the stuff that goes on. So be honest, guys. How tough is this off season that's started now?
I'm sure Mr. Maurer is going to make us run in the heat, non-stop.
Yeah, yeah, it's endless fitness conditioning. We'll run on this field for like an hour straight in the heat, just before we have our water polo tournaments, and then we go support our school. But yeah, you're usually dying, and then guys are puking, guys are almost crying because it's like how hectic it gets.
Tell me something. In your typical training week, what does that look like in off season? How many sessions do you? Obviously, you guys go to gym as well. What does that look like normally?
We usually have like a session every day of the week, not on the weekends, but we have on like Tuesdays or Thursdays, we'll have a fitness session on the field after school. And then Monday, Wednesday and Friday, we'll have skill sessions and then gym sessions. And it's a lot of like almost skill-based things on those days. Yeah. All
right. So pretty much developing skills this time of the year, and then obviously when we go into season, it's more game plan structures. Tell me something. You guys obviously have some sort of a following, or are following people on Instagram and TikTok and all the rest of it. That's what you all do. So how do you deal with that type of pressure when you're in the season? You might not have the greatest game. How do you deal with that? Do you stay off it? What do you guys do?
I mean, negativity is important because it motivates you to play better. So if you do see negative things online or on Instagram, whatever, it should motivate you to play better and to avoid getting those kind of posts.
Okay, and you guys are both grade 11, right?
Yeah.
So have you been part of the setup this year already for the senior structure,
Yeah.
obviously? Next year, we know that there's a proper group of under 16s coming through that are obviously joining you guys. How excited are you about next season?
I mean, obviously it threatens our position as in our team, but I mean, it's great to have, this youthful batch come through that is so talented.
Yeah, I mean, it creates competition, eh? And
Yeah.
if, competition makes all of us better.
Better.
Tell me something. You guys, aspirations for Craven Week, for Academy Week, are you looking at that, or is it school first?
School first.
Yeah, school first. Definitely want to represent the school. Like that's number one priority. But obviously, like trying to get as far as you can, like trying to get into the province reps and see how far you can go.
Do you guys obviously we just heard from the coaches you guys are supposed to do a summer and a winter sport. So what do you guys do as a summer sport?
I play water polo.
Water polo?
I do athletics.
Athletics. Okay, and how do you balance that? I mean, obviously you just spoke about the amount of sessions that there is in the off season. Do you then combine the two? Does the coaches allow that? How does that work?
I just try and do as much as possible and still try and balance with the academic performance.
Which is obviously something they spoke about as well. So how do you handle the academics? I mean, it's grade 11 especially. It's quite an important year, right?
Yeah, some of us don't handle it too well, and some of us get it right, I guess.
Yeah. So how important is after school rugby? Is that the focus? Is going to varsity more of a focus? I mean, personally, and I'll ask both of you. What's the aspiration? Where do you want to go?
Personally, just to play as much rugby as possible, make my family proud, make SACS proud, and then to later maybe leave it and then study something in university.
All right, and yourself?
I definitely want to try see how far I can take it into like maybe internationally, but I don't want to like almost limit myself to just rugby. Try and see where else I can go as well.
So next year there's a couple of, obviously your season as it is quite grueling with the guys you play against. But then obviously you've got the odd game here and there with like North-South or Villa Klaver and places like that where you might be competing. How important is it to measure yourself against the best of the best?
it's important. It gives you perspective. It allows you to play better and to train and to hone your craft against like a good side. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like a test. You can almost test yourself against the best. When you play against the big schools, you almost can compare yourself and be like, I'm almost there. You just need to try a bit more harder and work more harder at your craft.
Guys, you are, I think there's going to be a couple of wide eyes next year about what you guys are doing. We've got some, let's talk about the coaches quickly. I mean, with Josh being, he's been here for a while, but surely he's been an inspiration for you guys as players, right?
Yeah, what a fantastic coach to have.
Ooh. Nice person as well, eh?
Yeah. It's not only helped us really on the field, it's off the field as well, like just seeing out throughout the day and having conversations with him. It's also just inspiring to know that a coach is willing to have a conversation with you during the day.
It's amazing. Guys, we wish you all the luck. We will definitely be back here. We'll cover one of the big ones, and we'll make sure it's a home game so that we can come and visit this nice establishment again. But best of luck. I hope you guys got a wonderful season, and I truly hope that there's bigger aspirations for you guys. Let's see what happens.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
It's the workers who serve the public that keep life moving forward. For 40 years, C-Track has been on this journey with you. We make every road traveled safer and smarter with optimized efficiency.
Interesting, Johnny. These guys are, I mean, again, extremely humble, but know what they are up for. Into their off season, already training. Also a multi-sport school, which they believe that they've got to do winter and summer sports, which is great. So there's a lot of participation in the school in different sports. But again, a quiet confidence that they really know what they want to achieve, and they're working hard towards that.
It's interesting to have a spin of other perception from SACS. And, normally you'll get your rugby director and your heads of rugby looking at a summer sport as it stands in the way of us preparing for our sport. They look at it differently. I mean, they clearly said they look at whether it's athletics and whether it's swimming, that how can that sport assist in the conditioning of our rugby players. So I like the lens through which they look at this, the other sporting coach. And then, pre-season, and we tend to miss that sometimes. Pre-season is crucial. It's crucial. I mean, if you start right, you're going to end right. You've got to start. You've got to begin with the end in mind. So pre-season for them is extremely important, and you can hear clearly from Josh is that they're working hard on pre-season. There's a clear defined plan and strategy of how they're going to execute their pre-season, and that's going to determine how the results will look when the first game starts. But yeah, what stood out for me is they accommodate the summer sports because they feel that contributes to the development of their players, and more schools should maybe just look at it like that.
Yeah, look, Bishops and Rondebosch call it the southern suburbs, guys. I'd love to see SACS right back in there. There's been great results from Bishops and Rondebosch in the past couple of years, and obviously we'd love to see SACS, holding that ground or standing their ground. I mean, the southern suburbs has been very, feeding wise, they've been amazingly contribution to Western Province rugby, and I hope that continues. But they've got the right people in positions that needs to drive that, and I'm sure they're gonna make a massive difference.
What stands out for me is the cross-pollination of the process that we've been busy with. Whether it's Monas, whether it's Paul Boys, whether it's Berghem, whether it's, I don't care. One thing that's standing out for me is how communities can learn from the various approaches and the various characteristics of the schools. We need the SACS community to like and subscribe. We need you to give us a thumbs up, because each and every week as a community we're going to get unified, and we're going to really accommodate, respect the diversity of schools, the diversity of people. And if we don't get your subscription, you're not going to help us to bring informative, educational and exciting content to your doorstep where we're really gonna form that community that cares, that community of discipline, and that community that stands together in the name of schoolboy rugby and in the name of educating and developing these children holistically to become the best versions of which they can possibly. So please click and subscribe. SACS is important. The oldest school in the country. We need your subscription.
Absolutely, and like rightfully said, Johnny, we want everybody to be proud of this badge we wear on our chest. We are going to continue to bring this content to you, keep on educating you. We want you to be a part of that. We want you to wear this with pride because it stands for something. It stands for something. And we've really had an absolute wonderful time at SACS. Thank you so much for them for giving us the opportunity to chat to them. And we can't wait to see you next week.